everybody. This is Asha Saxena. I am the CEO of WLDA, World Leaders in Data and AI, and the AI Factor Institute. I'm so excited to be with all of you here talking about something that we all are talking about, the digital human, the digital agent, or you want to call it your AI companion. But when we talk about digital twin or digital companion, the question is really, are these agents getting operationalized in the enterprises? What is the value we are getting from AI in general, but also these digital twins or our digital friends or companions who are coming into our workforce faster than we thought they would? Of course, there's the good news that we are using ChatGPT, we are using large language model to at least synthesize our information, looking at our research work when we talk to our clients or our stakeholders, or thinking about how we can use a tool like this to automate our code. So definitely there is a lot of use of our Gen AI project, but the question is, as they said, and I think as I spoke about this in the last session, that are we getting the value from AI of what we were expecting? So that's really the big question. Are we getting the value from either the AI projects, AI initiatives? Are we bringing out these projects from the sandbox and really implementing and getting the value we hope to get from these projects? Not just a tool, it's a superpower. We can use it how we think would make the most impact on our business, but really, are we asking the right questions? Are we really using this technology to make sure we can create impact on our business? So as we continue this discussion today about operationalizing digital twin in the enterprise, from just a concept to focusing on generating value, I'm really excited that I have Iman Kawas, the co-founder of Digital Twin as a service, and her tremendous background on the work she's done for several years on not just the digital twin, but really the foundation from building the models, understanding the models, and to the journey to where we are with the AI agents. So before we get started, Iman, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Asha. I'm stoked to be here.
Iman, just your background. I think your background is so impressive, from where you started your journey in your career to really working with technology, the data science, the databases, to machine learning models, and now the digital agent. So maybe before we get started, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got here working with digital twins.
Yeah, sounds great. First of all, this is my passion, so I'm stoked to be having this conversation today. So for myself, I come from over 15 years of experience in digital transformation, driving data and AI and digital twin strategies in infrastructure, energy, and industrial systems. My background is both entrepreneurial and also enterprise setting, where I've helped organizations bridge the gap between digital strategies, and operational execution. So much of my work, now you're talking about digital twins, much of my work is around operationalizing digital twins at scale. Everybody talks about the concept of digital twin, but putting it in action is another game. And this what I have been living and breathing for the last 10 years right now. So it's not just as a technical solution, but it's also as an enabler of sustainability, business agility, and cross-functional alignment in organization. So I've led initiatives in connecting these dots and building enterprises that are not only smart infrastructure, but it also has intelligence behind it. So digital twins, it's not just a solution or a platform. It evolves over time, and we can talk a little bit more about that here. But I've learned that throughout the years that the success of digital twins is not just about technology. It's really about the organizational alignment, the value definition, as you mentioned, and also building the right governance from day one around digital twins. And I'm sure we're going to get more into that.
Listen, we talk about all the aspects, the infrastructure, the technology, the business use cases, the deployment, and really the most importantly, the value, but also the scale. Can you actually scale a technology? But before we get too deep into the tech conversation, the evolution of AI, starting from machine learning, from our data science days. I mean, if you go back, the analytics days to data science to machine learning, now to AI and Gen AI, and now we are in the era of AI agents. And this journey has been so fast. I feel like every time you turn around, the technology's evolved already, and new terminology, new technology, new products are in the market, and it is hard to keep up. And when we talk about the AI agents, there are several names. We can say the AI agents, or digital worker, digital human, digital twin, companion. Uh, when we talk about digital twin, how do you define? How, just even before we get any further in the deep technology conversation, how would you define digital twin, and how do you see the evolution of the digital twin?
Yeah, so digital twin, it's in my world, is in an enterprise context. So traditionally, digital twins have been used as a virtual replica of a physical asset. When you see industries like manufacturing or energy, you see digital twins there have been running for decades. But today, the context of digital twin is around enterprise transformation. So from my definition, it's the digital twin is a dynamic, data-driven virtual replica of an organization. So that includes an asset, a system, and a process. And now we're talking about replicating humans. So it's integrated across the organization to enable simulation, real time monitoring, predictive analytics, and decision making. So it's not just a 3D model or a sensor dashboard that we're used to seeing over the decades. It's a living, breathing being that evolves, that a model that evolves over time. And it blends in an operational data. So I've worked a lot in engineering organizations and in energy and infrastructure and utilities, logistics. So all of that is like engineering models, a lot of data, a lot of asset data. So how do we contextualize that in an enterprise context? That's the power of a digital twin that mirrors the reality, but at scale. So we're not really talking about a digital twin of an asset anymore. We're really talking about a digital twin of an enterprise. So in my experience, operationalizing that level of a digital twin, it breaks silos in the organization and it aligns the operational technology with the information technology. It also serves as a strategic layer that informs decision making. So I've worked on use cases, for example, in capital planning for digital twins, in predictive maintenance, in ESG performance tracking. So you have a lot of power you can leverage of digital twins, but it depends on how you're going to contextualize it and on which level of your organization you're going to get that intelligence and put it at play. So leading digital twin initiatives, it is complex technology, and it requires a lot of orchestration and also collaboration in order to get the most out of it from a transformational perspective.
I like the way you explained the digital twin can be the twin of an organization or process. And listen, RPA has been around for a while now. And when you look at the robotic process automation, it is replicating a process. And then you think about, the evolution from process automation to now technology that's coming out and building these agents that can act like your business coach or a
Mhm.
tutor for a child, is very exciting. I mean, when I saw the use case when Sal Khan from the Khan Academy spoke about Khan Mingo, the AI tutor, I mean, I just was, like, how great are these this times when these kids can actually learn, not just to get the answer, but to actually go deeper into the topics and understand why this concept is, when they're looking at a theorem or theory or complex equations, to really understand what does it really mean. And when I think about, let's say an example of computer science is like, when do I use random forest or decision tree, or when do I really think about gradient descent, and why do we have to worry about that? So I think the concepts can be, the student can actually go deeper into the concept to understand what the concepts are, not just worry about the answers. And I think great to have an agent, a companion who can be a tutor or can be a coach. And so it does seem very attractive. when you think about these use cases, when you can have a AI friend, I still remember that movie when I saw the movie Her, and the protagonist has an operating system and he lands up building a relationship with the operating system. And at the end of the movie, it talks about when the operating system takes a moment to answer, the protagonist says, uh, you're taking a minute to answer, are you talking to somebody else? And she says, yeah, I'm processing multiple requests. And I thought that was really interesting because that was the time he understood that
Yeah,
it's a program, an app, and not a human. So that's the power of AI agents. And I see, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's like, my grandmother is talking to, Chat GPT all day long. I mean, how great it is that we can actually have an AI friend who can actually be a companion to an elderly patient, and they can
absolutely.
have an engagement. So I think the possibilities are endless. But when you think about the strategy versus execution, so you have these use cases you spoke about. I think there can be, or there are some use cases which are very attractive, and I think that makes the stakeholders eager to get started with your agent friend. What are the biggest challenges you see when you're working with business, aligning business with the IT teams, and making sure that they are working in alignment with the mission and the vision to execute that these agents are deployed effectively and are scaled?
Absolutely. So one piece here of also incorporation and clarification on these AI agents and the RPAs and all the cool technologies that are currently out there. So in context of digital twins, I like to call the AI agents and that level of intelligence as the soul of digital twin. And that's the kind of terminology I usually use because it replicates a soul like if a digital twin doesn't have that level of intelligence in it, it doesn't qualify as being a digital twin. So let's just make sure that our audience understands that the intelligence is a very important piece of the digital twin. We cannot call a digital twin if we don't have that capability of scenario planning and as decision making support. So in that sense, when we want to implement digital twins, one of the major challenges or potentially POCs fail and MVPs fail in the beginning, not because of the technology and the capability, but because of the misalignment between business vision and the implementation realities. The most effective way to bridge this gap is to stop treating digital twin as an isolated tech pilot that starts embedding in the enterprise, on its own. You just, purchase a product and throw it somewhere in your organization and hope that it will do magic. So we have to look at digital twins as an integration in the enterprise as a value stream. So the first question for me when I approach my customers and these use cases is why are we implementing a digital twin? Let's begin with a clear, measurable business outcome, like for example, reducing downtime, improving ROI, or accelerating decarbonization. These outcomes, business outcomes, anchors both the business and the IT around a shared value. So answering the why is very important as we launch these in whether it's intelligent agents on their own or they are embedded in a digital twin. We have to answer why are we doing this? What is the business outcome that we're looking to achieve? And then the second thing, in order to mitigate the risk of this misalignment and failure, is to actually appoint, and a lot of people underestimate the value of these folks and what I call them the integrators and the translators.
Right.
When I say integrators, it's not, your mind goes immediately to the technology integration, but what I'm talking about is business integration. So we're talking about a successful digital twin program requires a bilingual role that a person who's able to talk digital, talk technology, talk infrastructure, talk as technical as you want them to be, and at the same time they're capable to be on the part of the business conversation to integrate these two points of views. These are what I call the heroes of the show. You need them to be able to serve that connective tissue between the enterprise architects and product owners, the operational teams. So this is something that I have experienced to be successful or that carries the success of successful implementations. Now, after we secure these couple of things in place, we're looking at, a roadmap. We're looking at a strategic direction. Now we have business outcomes. We have the right people to do implement these use cases. We have to look at these roadmaps as an evolution. It's evolving over time because the digital twin is growing, or it's a living being and it's growing over time. So developing capabilities on the roadmap is it creates this roadmap creates alignment and adaptability with the teams of business and IT, but it keeps everyone in check. But that doesn't mean it's static. It's not a static plan. It's a checkpoint around data maturity, interoperability, governance. But we have to kind of be flexible around how this roadmap is going to move in time as we proceed with our implementations. So these are things that I've seen usually are blind spots when we approach the enterprise with this level of transformation, talking about digital twins. These are things that I would like to highlight as potential risks for failure if we don't approach it in the same fashion, and also the architecture piece for all of this to come together. You need to be able to see how the architecture is going to evolve over time as we add more data sources, as we expand these use cases, as we roll them out potentially to different, geographical locations, different users. So the architecture has to be flexible, the roadmap has to be flexible, and also the business outcome is clear, and we have the right orchestrators in the middle. These are very important pieces to make sure that we are ultimately aligning not only IT and business, but it's about co-owning the transformation agenda with using digital twins as a mean for enterprise resilience and agility.
You bring up multiple good points here. I think the first piece, which, it's an evolution of a digital twin. I call that five stages of a digital twin, where you are, when it's like a human, it's a child, it's learning and growing with the data you feed, and the reinforced learning, and then it goes into adolescence and youth and adulthood, and then a sage when it's getting, more knowledgeable and stronger. So it is an evolution, and I think how we engage with this digital twin and how we feed this digital twin with the information helps it evolve and make hopefully less mistakes. But I think there's a big role which you spoke about, is the stakeholder. You call it a business integrator, or someone who's a champion, but getting them involved early on. As you are building the personas, and you're building the use cases, and you're thinking about how do you quantify the value of the digital twin, and how do you make sure there is a successful deployment, it becomes really critical that you have these champion or business integrators who actively start taking part in the very beginning of the cycles of development. And I like that you spoke about how important they are, as well as the technology teams who are going to work in line together to make sure these projects are successful. But when you talk about architecture, I want to kind of touch upon that. When you're looking at the success of an AI agent or a digital twin, you also want to make sure that your infrastructure, your process, your people are all aligned to make sure that the digital twin is successful. But the question comes, build or buy. Uh, Large organizations like Microsoft and Google are taking the lead. Amazon is taking the lead. But what is your experience in going out and buying the digital twin from the startups or from the large tech companies, or organization really building from the grassroots these initiative within the organization, the build versus buy, the age old concept? But how do you really make a decision of what is the right direction to go into?
So you're touching here on a very important point. I think that's also a pull in the markets. Like as you mentioned, a lot of companies are on building these platforms and rolling it out in the beginning. Like I was in this space in the beginning of the hype. So we're talking about 10 years ago. In the beginning of the hype, there was a lot of approaching digital twins as an ERP, as a traditional ERP. But somewhere in the middle, the maturity of the market started to realize that this is not going to work, because we're talking about intelligence. We're talking about building scalable use cases. We cannot be implementing a platform and then we're stuck with one thing that doesn't serve other things. So somewhere in the middle, we start seeing the maturity of the market kind of expand, and we start seeing vendors opening up their platforms to actually be more interoperable. So you're touching a point on this topic, which is the interoperability. The decision of make versus buy is around the architecture of interoperability. If you want to scale your digital twins beyond isolated use cases, and to have more ambition for growth in the future, a strong enterprise architecture foundation is necessary, that turns on and off the digital twin as you need it. But then, in order to do that, you need the technology to be open to digest different levels of data, and also different level of technologies, because we have to have a flexibility, because now we're talking AI. Tomorrow you don't know what's going to be rolled in, right? We started already talking about agentic AI. We're talking about blockchain. You don't know what's going to be rolling in the next 15 years. So
True.
so we have to build that agility in our business, especially in big business that are infrastructure and airports, for example. Like, these are foundational to our economy, making sure that they are flexible enough to accommodate another innovation that's coming down down the road. You don't want to, in order to do that, that's where the decision of make or buy. Yes, buy, but then you want to make sure you're buying something that's open to be adaptable in the future. And one of the metrics or criteria right now that we're looking at as we move forward on these implementations is basically two things: the capability of interoperability, which is integration between different data sources. And the other thing is connecting the operational technology layer with the information technology layer, the enterprise technology layer. Is that integration possible? So these are a couple of technical guidances that you can use to decide if you're going to buy a platform or start developing your own.
I think the most important piece, as you think about buy or build, is the impact. And how do you really measure the impact, both technically and business outcome both, and continue building the momentum on uh, these initiative of agents or digital twin, and how do you make sure that you can scale that? What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Yeah. Scalability is a big thing, because a lot of people are purchasing all of these technologies, and we're stuck in the POC and MVP stages, and we're not able to roll it out onto other use cases. And one of the main reasons this is happening is because we're not taking into consideration the foundation before we even buy anything. And that foundation is basically the data model, standardizing the core data and the data structure, and coming back to the interoperability piece that I was talking about. So that we address all of this in an enterprise architecture fashion. So that's why I keep emphasizing that discipline, because it goes down in a very systematic layer, understanding these, as you mentioned, not only the technical components but also the business impact. We have to have standardized core data models. These core data models will have to be in a place that are interoperable. Not only that, a well-architected systems emphasizes composability. So twins, are not, as I said earlier, like, it's not something static. It's evolving over time. So we need to allow it to evolve. How are we doing that? Are we allowing, business units to assemble their own solutions, or are we coming back to the same place, building libraries of models, APIs, capabilities, around the business? So these are the kind of questions that I usually run into as we address scalability of digital twins. And then, once you start rolling this out and scaling across different use cases, you immediately start addressing the operating model. Now, how are we going to be doing the work? we're changing things, and we have to be addressing that. One of the first conversations that we usually have is around governance, who is accessing what, and as you mentioned earlier, the impact on people's ways of doing things. And of course, a big conversation usually around that is the security of the data. As we scale and kind of we start, business units, potentially other countries and other infrastructure areas. Now we started talking about security. So these are stages that we go through as we talk about scalability. But in order to be able to have that conversation from the get-go, as we start planning on implementing digital twins, we have to prep our foundation to be ready for that level of scale. If we don't do that, we're going to be developing in silos, which doesn't really achieve the impact that you're looking for in your enterprise. So the sooner we get down and roll our sleeves and get down on that architecture piece, the better.
I love what you said about the architecture having a strong foundation. Governance, security becomes really critical as you think about digital human. We are excited about digital twin, but we also have to remember we have a lot more opportunity for breaches and deep fakes, and we have to be more careful about how we are building, training our models. And as we always say in Wilda, that let's come together to build a responsible world, be responsible about how we use AI, how we build AI. It's about building a fair digital world with parity and equity. I'm passionate about the whole cause of, listen, we are building an amazing technology. We're going to see wonderful outcomes of having some great use cases. I'm a technology optimist, but I also want to make sure that every single one of us remember our responsibility as engineers, as leaders in this industry, to make sure we're doing the right thing. Digital twin will have a lot of impact on our world. Our world, if you're technical or non-technical, they are coming in. And I always say humans are getting upgraded. If you don't have a title, you're going to be a manager because you're going to be managing a digital human. So how do you lead? How do you manage? Are you responsible? Ethical practices become really important before you start building the foundation. As Iman, you said, having the right architecture, make sure you have the right policies, you have the right framework for responsible ethical practices. Make sure the governance is really, really key. I know we sometimes kind of want to move so fast and think about the outcome, and you forget about how important governance and security and having the policy and regulations are, compliances. So make sure that we do our groundwork. This is an exciting time. And Iman, having leaders like you who've been implementing digital twins and frameworks and architecture, it becomes critical that we have engineers like you or architects like you in the organizations who are building it right. I'm so excited, Iman, you came today on this show. And all the listeners, I know you probably have a lot of questions. I couldn't really keep an eye on the chat, but I want to mention that, Iman, you're here. If they want to reach out to you and ask you any question, they can reach out to you on your LinkedIn. I'm here to help serve. My goal is, as an AI strategist, I work with organizations to make sure that they're building the right strategy to implement the right use cases. Focus on the value. There are tons of use cases in the hamper, but really think about where you get the quick wins. Where can you have a long-term strategy? Focus on the outcome. Make sure the business is getting the value. And I'm wishing you all the very best. Thank you, Man, again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I wish you all the best also in digital twin implementations.
Thank you.
Exciting.
All right.